In April 1914, on their way to Tirupati, my parents went to see Bhagavan at the Virupaksha cave. When I made my obeisance to Bhagavan, along with everyone else, his benign and divine gaze was fixed upon me. I was 16 at the time, and I paid little attention to him as I ran about the place along with other boys. After my return home, a great change came over me. Till then, I had never cared to go to any temple, but now I felt dragged, as it were, by some mysterious fascination to the huge and magnificent Mathrubhuteshwara Lingam in the rock temple in my hometown of Tiruchirappalli. Once inside the temple, a great peace overwhelmed me, and the joy I felt was indescribable. In January 1919, when I had an occasion to visit my sister's house in Tiruvannamalai, I had Bhagavan's darshan at Skanda Ashram. This time also, Bhagavan's gracious look was impressed upon me. Reaching home, when I slept after breakfast, for over 2 hours I was fully conscious, but at the same time totally unconscious of my body and surroundings. Even after being roused for lunch, I felt that everything around me was like a dream. The people who saw my puzzled expression made fun of me. In 1923, at the end of the first year of my teaching career, I again visited my sister in Tiruvannamalai and went to the ashram. At that time, I was very sympathetic towards people like Ganapati Muni, who were working for the political uplift of India. I also felt anger towards people like Bhagavan, who were not lifting a finger for the country's liberation. I was then still an agnostic. I said nature could take care of itself. Where is the need for a creator? At that time, there were no buildings in the ashram except for a shed covering the mother's samadhi. I saw Bhagavan seated on a bench under a tree, stroking a dog that was near him. Among us Brahmins, the dog is an animal which will defile purity. A good part of my respect for the Maharshi was gone. I asked him, "Sir, you are sitting like this. What is your next move?" My idea was to elicit from him the reply that there is a soul that survives the dissolution of the body, which later gets unified with God. I wanted to have a verbal fight with him so that I could prove that this was not so. Minutes passed, but no reply was forthcoming. I said to myself, "Is this man taking shelter under his dumb, indifferent silence from answering an inconvenient question?" But just that moment, Bhagavan's ringing voice exploded. "Move? What do you mean by move?" I was not prepared for the counter question. I said to myself, "Oh, this man is very dangerous. He is dangerously alive. I have to answer with proper care." And so I began to think, if I ask him about the body, it is a useless question. The body will be buried or burnt. Now, if I say that the question is about the state of mind, he will naturally ask me to define mind, for which no answer was forthcoming within me. I landed in a void and was like a helpless mute. There was a fierce glow in Bhagavan's eyes that held my own eyes in a tight grip. I lost awareness of both body and the world. I did not know how long it continued. When I came to myself, I was terribly afraid of the Maharshi. In spite of myself, I prostrated and made a headlong flight. At my next visit, The Sarvadakari of the ashram invited me to lunch and told me that a few weeks prior to my arrival, my father and mother had come to the ashram and had given a bhiksha to Bhagavan and the ashramites. After lunch, he presented me a photo of Bhagavan and two small books, the ARUNACHALA Stuti Panchakam and the Ramana Stuti Panchakam. When I approached Bhagavan with these gifts, he corrected some printing errors in the two books with his fountain pen, passed his palm over them, and gave them back to me with his blessed hands. After the evening meal was over, I followed Bhagavan on his short stroll and asked, Bhagavan, I am doing Ramana mantra japa. Is not Arunachala mantra japa superior to this? No, said Bhagavan vehemently. Both are identical. Ra means that is, and Ma means thou. A in Arunachala means that. Ru means thou, and Na means art. Then he added, using your mind as your mouth, let the name Rama revolve continuously like the Vishnu chakra within your mind. Let no other know that you are doing japa. Before leaving the ashram, the Sarvadakari asked me to send him a photograph of Nataraja, the majestic idol in the Meenakshi temple, in front of whom the boy Ramana stood for long spells of time, shedding copious tears of ecstasy before he left Madurai for good. The Sarvadakari also wanted a photograph of the house where Ramana was born in Tiruchuzi and of some other places there. These were meant to be placed in the Tamil biography of Sri Ramana Vijayam by Sudananda Bharati. I could succeed in implementing the request with the help of a Mr. S. Mani, my student and an expert photographer. Towards the end of 1930, I was bedridden. My pain and suffering was so great that I was seriously contemplating suicide, simply because I could not stand the pain anymore. My wife wired to her parents that my life was in danger. The following day, I told my wife that I might not live for more than a couple of days. Scarcely had I spoken these words when Valachi Mani Aiyer, a boyhood friend of Sri Ramana, who had just returned from Tiruvannamalai and happened to be there, took out Bhagavan's vibhuti and kumkum prasad. He placed a dot of kumkum on my forehead and rubbed the vibhuti on my eyebrows. Immediately, a thrill of joy shook my frame, infusing me with a feeling of good health. I sat up in my bed and told my wife, I am quite well. I will not die. Don't fear. The same night, my wife's parents arrived with my cousin, Dr. Raja Gopal, who took us to his home in Kurur and treated me for a month, by which time I was fully restored to health. I then recollected the song I heard at Trichy that goes, Jai Shri Rama, victory unto my Lord Ramana Shiva. My soul sang the same song. My then 66-year-old father was suffering from both hernia and asthma. These troubles got aggravated due to frequent trips between Madurai and Tiruchuzi, which were necessary for negotiations needed to acquire the house where Bhagavan was born. After the deal was concluded and the property acquired for 3,000 rupees, my father, along with others involved in the negotiation, returned to Tiruvannamalai, where he got struck with strangulated hernia. The attack was sudden and severe, and it was not possible to take him by car to the Vellore hospital. The resident ashram doctor, Kupaswami Aiyer, a staunch devotee of Bhagavan, took courage in both hands and improvised an operation table in the local hospital. Before taking up the operation, he came to Bhagavan and prayed to him for success. My father survived the operation, which the specialist in Madurai had earlier said would be fatal at that age and condition of his health. When it became clear that the life of my father had been spared, I prostrated before Bhagavan and said, "This one time Bhagavan has worked a miracle and saved my father's life." Bhagavan interjected and said, "Why are you saying one time? Why are you not saying 3 times? How Bhagavan could remember or know about those 2 earlier occasions when his grace was sought and secured years ago to save my father's life in similar situations will always remain a mystery to me.